Hello, ladies and gentlemen, federal employees. Today, we are going to go over when and how you're actually going to get pension checks from OPM in retirement. And I'm not just talking about those that have a deferred retirement or a postponed retirement. For those types of people, it is pretty obvious that you're not going to get your pension right away, right when you stop working. But I'm talking about for those that retire with an immediate retirement that expect most of the time to start getting their pension checks every month in the mail without fail. Now, it doesn't happen as quickly as most people even expect or want, even close. So let's dig in. I'm going to jump over to my drawing app. I'm going to walk you through what the numbers look like, what the timeline looks like to show you, okay, for your retirement, your federal retirement, what should you expect so you can be prepared with an emergency fund, with funds, with money from some source to fill the gap between when you actually stop working, by the time OPM processes your application, actually starts paying you money, and then actually starts paying you the full amount that you deserve, plus anything that you should have gotten during the gap. So let's get right to it. Okay, now I jumped over to my drawing app. So if you're on the podcast, I'm going to walk you through with my voice so that you can follow along, no problem. But it probably will be helpful to go to the YouTube channel and check out the video associated with this. I'm just going to walk through a few numbers, a few examples, just so you can see it, what the real numbers might look like. But again, I'll walk you through it, so whatever works and is most helpful for you. Okay, so the question we all want to know is how long does it take to get my first pension check from OPM, okay? That is the question. And to answer that, it takes about 3 months, okay? It takes about 3 months. And now, when I say 3 months, that is not your full pension. So basically, it takes OPM about 3 months to do a preliminary check on your application and your file. Basically, what that means is they make sure they go in, make sure you have the age requirements, that you have the years of service requirement, that you're eligible to retire, right? At that point, they pay you a preliminary payment that is a percentage of what they think you're actually eligible for. So, like I said, 3 months in, you're going to get a partial payment, okay? A partial payment. So basically, they shoot for about 80% of what you're supposed to get as your full pension. Now, in practice, that's usually around 60, 70, 80%, right in there. So you want to be prepared during those 3 months, or those 6 months, that you have the funds you need to survive. Because at about the 6 month mark in retirement is generally, if things go well, when OPM gets their stuff together, right, and they go through your file enough that they know what your full pension should be, okay? So, about 6 months equals full pension, okay? Now, during those times, let's say the first 3 months of retirement, when you're not receiving a dime, where does that money go? Well, generally, at the 6 month mark, they also pay you anything owed, right? They send you a check for anything they owe you from the time that they're paying you partial payments, as well as during the months that they didn't pay you anything at all during the first couple months. Okay, now, but I have to put an asterisk here, saying that it could take OPM much longer. There's been stories of waiting a year, there's been stories of waiting a long, long time before the pension actually kicks in, if there's issues with your retirement. Now, and it depends when you retire, how busy OPM is at that point. If most retirees are retiring right when you retire and they have this huge influx of applications, then they might take a little longer. Okay. Let's see here. So like I said, you can't do a ton to speed this up other than just doing your application well, making sure you're actually eligible to retire, and retiring in a slow time of year, which is not always the best option. Depends on what you actually want to do with your retirement. But let's go through an example. Okay, so let's clear this guy. Okay. So let's say a federal employee has a gross pension of $3,000. Okay, gross pension, monthly pension. We know that there are some deductions. If you've been following me for a while, you'll know this very, very well. So some of the common ones. Let's say a survivor benefit, right? Survivor benefit. Let's say 10% survivor benefit, so that's $300. Okay. What about FEHB? He wants FEHB for him and his spouse. So let's say good family plan, $450. Depending on the state, that's what it's going to be. So that's his gross pension. FEHB is that. Oh, we got taxes. Got to pay Uncle Sam. Okay. $300. So you subtract all those out. You have a net pension of about $1,950. Rough numbers. This is just an example. Rough numbers of $1,950. So let's clear this out. So $1,950 is the full pension. Okay? So what might that look like for him in retirement? So we got month 0, we got month 1, month 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Hopefully you don't mind the bad handwriting. Writing on a tablet is not always the easiest. Okay, so month 0, right here, that's a 0, is when he retires. This example, when he retires. And guess what? He's going to get $0 and $0 here, $0 here. In month 3, he may get a portion of what he's eligible for. Let's say 80%. 80% of $1,950. Okay, so that is about $1,560. Okay, so that I'll write that a little bigger here so you can see it better. $1,560. Okay, $1,560. That's about 80% of his gross pension, or his net pension. Sorry, and that payment's going to last for about 3 months, and then at 6-month mark, OPM is going to process his entire application, and at that point, they will start paying his net pension plus whatever they owe him for these months here. Right? Plus interest. Okay? And then month 7, he's just going to be getting his net pension from then on. So that is generally how it works. Like I said, it can take longer, and it might for you. It just might. And so you have to be prepared for months and months and months without this income. And now let's say you have the first supplement. The same thing applies. So if you add in, let's say, $1,000 for the first supplement that you're eligible for, then it was going to get that 80% reduction as well during this time that they're processing your application. So definitely keep that in mind. So hopefully that helps. Like I said, my handwriting's not great. Hopefully you're able to follow that and it was helpful for you. So in a nutshell, there's not a ton you can do to speed up how fast OPM processes your application other than just filling it out correctly and retiring at a slow time, which doesn't make sense for everyone. So make sure, since you can't change it, you have to be prepared so that you can enjoy retirement and not be stressed about rushing OPM, because that's very hard to do and almost impossible to do. So definitely be prepared with an emergency fund, with funds, just in case this takes longer than you expect. At the minimum, it's going to take 3 months to 6 months, right? That's just at the minimum. But expect for longer, and if it's earlier, great. It's a great surprise, and things will all work out for you. Those that are prepared don't have to worry, but those that are, it can be very, very stressful. Just for cash flow, just making sure there's enough dollars every month to pay the bills without killing your TSP too early, right? We don't want to do that. We want to have flexibility. We want to have options, and that comes from being prepared and knowing what your retirement is going to look like. So hopefully that is helpful. Have a great rest of your day, federal employees, and I will see you next time.